Hey everybody. So in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to go through everything that's transpired today. There's a bunch of actionable ideas actually based upon the action we saw today. It was really good action. And we're going to get into that pretty in depth. But as always, I have a list of stocks that other people were interested in, as well as the ones that I think are going to move. So we're going to run the gambit. I'm going to do it in alphabetical order so that you can go through it yourself. If you want, pause, stop, but everything's going to be in alphabetical order today, so that should make it a little bit easier for everybody. As always, subscribe to the channel and turn on all notifications. I think it's a bell because what we go over here is extremely timely. And finally, it's going to let you know when we start doing live shows, which we're going to start doing starting tomorrow, Saturday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm going to go through the top 10 stocks to watch for the week. For those that did that last week or the week even prior, they were in BNTX and did exceptionally well as some other names. So that's it. That's it in a nutshell. And let's just jump into it because we have a lot to cover, and there's a lot of stuff in here that really looks good for next week. So let's just start with this ALGN. And I was looking at this one prior to even running it tonight. I'm going to put that down here so that I can expand this out. I just want to point this out because I think this is important, and we can get rid of all the indicators for a minute. They're irrelevant for this. So the 631.94 level, we just cannot break above it for whatever reason. We can't. So we need to see it get above that before we buy it. But I just want to point this out. You have a base that is 20% down from here. So when this flips, okay, you could be looking at a 123-point move up. That's not even including this channel that's here. Okay, that you see this channel, right? I bet you if I draw this channel out, which we're not going to do, but I for time's sake, but I guarantee it takes you into the sevens just by looking at what's going on here. So when this breaks and this gets above this is something you need to look at, this ALGN. Right now, there's really nothing to do with it until I get above that 632, but it's going to happen. I think it's just a matter of time. I mean, you had a clean wedge here, right? And then you just broke out. And then we just have to get there, but we're just not there yet. So put this one on your radar as, getting there. ALVN or ALV was one I called out today on Twitter. If you don't follow me on Twitter, you might want to, because I do throw out actionable ideas during the day, things that I actually do and timestamp them so you can follow along. But one of the key things is that one of the key things is that when you see, I'm trying to figure out the right way to explain this, the easiest way to explain this. Let's explain it this way. Okay, let's pull this down. Let's open this up. This is the top of a channel. Okay, when you break out of a channel, think of it as breaking out of a base. Okay, they don't work the same way. Bases are usually stronger and more people are watching them. Most people don't know how to even draw channels properly. But when they break out, they tend to either do one of two things, move or call your top. And people that have been following me in the newsletter, and there's a link for the newsletter in the description. It's free, comes out 3 times a week. But if you break out like this and you break above something like this, this can really go. These can really move, or they can reject and come in, right? But these are very simple trades because if I break back into here, chances are I'm going to revert to the mean. The mean for any stock 9 times out of 10 is going to be your, I use the 21 day. You can use the 20. It doesn't matter. So just keep that in mind. That was what I was looking at in the trade. But the power of this move is what got me. And that's why I looked at it today. And I'm just going to explain what I mean by that. Okay. So you just see a green bar, but there's a lot to it. So this green bar, okay, is here, and this was our open, okay? And then from this open, we tried to break through this line. And remember from that candlestick video, and I'll link the candlestick video at this for people that haven't watched it yet. Remember what we said that these wicks are? They're price rejection. So essentially nobody chose to sell in here, right? It rejected that price. It's really important to remember. Look where we closed at the high of the day. It doesn't really get any more bullish, but let's just draw into this and just go through this so that you can see exactly what I'm talking about. This is a 5-minute chart. Let's get rid of all this, okay? Here's your open. you sell down, okay, and you test that line, right? You remember where that line was. You encapsulate the whole body of this move, right? So for technical reasons, I consider this a bullish engulfing. And then that was it. That was your trade. Now look at this line. It just hovered and never broke. Once it broke above that and encapsulated that, remember, this is price rejection, this wick, right? So once you broke above it, that was it. Boom. That became support. Resistance becomes support. We talk about it all the time. Bonk, boom, breaks this little wedge, off we go. That wasn't the greatest trade in the world, but it's 4 points, and it gets me in it enough that now I don't have to worry. I have gap risk, of course. You always have gap risk. But now I don't have to worry about the trade, right? It's a trade that, for all intents and purposes, will be hard to lose money on unless it gaps on me one way or another. But that's really it. And that was the trade. And I like the idea. Where would my stop be? My stop on this at this point can be one of two places. It could be where my cost is so that I don't lose money on the trade, or it could just be simply a close below this, which would mean that I'm going to revert to the mean, and I don't want to be in for that. So that's just one way to trade. That's one of many ways to trade that name or to trade that position. But let's just keep going because there's a lot to go over. AMC, I've got 40 lines on this chart. So, let's just do this. Let's remove all the horizontal lines. We don't really need this anymore. Okay, let's put this here. Okay, so we're just going to open this up for a minute, and then we're going to drill into this on the weekly because the weekly on this is really important. But if you look at what's going on here, okay, you can see that this level, okay, we're not getting above this level, this 1089 level. We try, we reject, we can't close above it, we can't close above it, bonk. I mean, what? 4 times, 5 times. Now we're doing this. What's interesting about what this is doing now, though, is you see how it came down, tried to get it, didn't. But look how shallow this cut was this time versus this cut versus this cut, right? So it's getting tighter and tighter against this. If it keeps knocking on the door, eventually it's going to get in. Okay, just think about it like that. Now, without putting anything else in, let's just look at the weekly, okay? Now, if you look at what's going on here, look at this close and look where you closed. And I think it's really important to understand this. And then we can throw in all the indicators. 1024, you closed there, you opened here, it was the high on this bar, and now we closed here again. For the past 5 weeks, 1024 has been the stock's nemesis. So before we can consider buying it, what I would want to do at this point, because I don't think it's going to run away from you, I would want to see a close above that. Now, where does that take us to? Okay, it can take you up to this 12 level, 1249 level fairly quickly if that happens. And then you'd be looking up here as well. Okay, $17 is not unrealistic for this to happen. And then of course you also have these points up here that you may have to contend with. But you can see how we can start moving up here, but you have to get above this 1024 and AMC. And I'll throw back into the daily, and you can throw in the indicators now, but they're all telling you the same thing that I just showed you with price, right? See how they're flat and now they're starting to turn up. So they're telling you what I just explained essentially, but they look good and the stock looks good. And if I was in it, I'd stay in it. So here we go. AVNX. Look, this is exactly what I'm talking about. You see all these wicks? They're all price rejection. And you can see from this resistance line that I already have drawn what's transpired here and how we're doing. So that's not something that I really want to mess with. I need to get above that line. And once I get above that line, I'll be in much better shape. But I'm just not there now. So once you get above this resistance line, you could consider it, but these wicks concern me. They're everywhere. So BNTX, look, I mean, when we rejected back into here, I thought the move was over. Clearly, I was wrong. It reversed violently and went right back over it. That was a really good indication on what to do with the stock to be a buyer of it. And it worked out excellent. Now you came in and now you had this hammer, inverted hammer, and look how you have this wick here. And now you have this little doji bar. So this kind of set me up for an evening star pattern here. So Do you buy this here? I'm going to say it again. No, I don't think you chase this. It's had a big move. We put this in that top 10 buy list, I think, 2 Saturdays ago, and it's done exceptionally well from there. But you need to watch this pattern. If I was long this and it broke that 170 level, I'd be gone. I'd be out of it. But it looks exceptionally strong. But that's just if you're looking for the trade. If you're looking longer term, you want to see if it can hold above this level. But if it can't hold above it, you're going to have to get out, and that's going to give you a 15-point differential. So it's going to be up to the person on what level they really want to look at and how long they're trying to stay in that trade. Because obviously they're up in it now. So I was looking at this, BRPHF. Someone asked me about this one. Look, you're right on a wedge. You opened right under your 5 and your 8 day. Pretty clear what you need to see, right? Before you buy this stock. Okay, so you open right below the 21, you close at the 5 and the 8, and you're at the wedge line. So what do you need to do here? You need to wait for it to get above the 5 and the 8, and then go from there. Until that happens, I would not go near this. It's you have this H pattern here, so I don't know that it doesn't reject that. It's got to prove itself. So that's what I would look at. CHGG. In regards to this one, I like this name, but we're not really going anywhere, are we? Now, you have some volume that came in, but look how we rejected. And I'm going to zoom in on this because I think this is important. Okay. See this line? You can't get above it. And you couldn't get above it back here. Look, let's get rid of these indicators for a minute. And let me just throw it this way so you can see what I'm talking about. See how it was support here? Okay. And then it was support here. And then it broke, and now it became, see how support now became resistance? See how I can't get above it? Remember what the wicks are, price reduction? So this is not something that you really want to go near. If I was, really wanting to own it, you got to get above that level, that 94 and 3/8 level, throw in the indicators. And you see how they're flatlining? People that have been following me for a while, when they start flatlining, to me, it's dead money, right? The flat line's dead money. These moving averages need to be pointing up. And we're not doing that. We're just going straight. So let it get above that level and let's start seeing some actual momentum. Until then, I wouldn't go near it. Clove, we came out with great news. I was trying to explain this the other day with stocks. When stocks come out with great news and they don't continue to rally and go up, it's not a great sign. And I really want to drill into just this part of the chart, because this is the most important part right now for Clove. So I just want to get really into this. See this 908 level? Okay, can't get above it. Got above it one day. Can't stay above it. Bonk, 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 right? It doesn't work. So get rid of all the indicators, and you'll start understanding this, why you don't need all the indicators. I mean, you put them in because they add incremental value, but understanding how to read price and how to draw lines and seeing the patterns, that's how you're going to make your money, in my opinion. There's no one indicator or special indicator that beats all. It just doesn't work that way. I mean, it's nice. It's a nice sales pitch, but it just doesn't work. So anyway, you need to learn how to read price, and you need to look at price action and chart patterns. That's how people that are professional traders make money. So just looking at what's going on here, get me above 908 and you have my interest. Until you start closing above 908, I have no interest in this. And this is a long flag that's going on here, but I'm in the middle of the flag. So that's not really exciting either. And now if we just drill down into this and just look at price, let me pull this all the way back down. I have a long way to go up here before I get up here. So I would just wait 908 and go from there. Crowd, I really, looks like I have it up here too. So crowd, I really like. I just don't like the action, but I like the name. And I'm going to tell you what I'm not crazy about. Let's just draw this out, bring this down, because I really don't even need the moving averages for this. Here's my line. I break out, and I am making progress. I'm not saying I'm not making progress, but when I have wicks like this, I want to see full-bodied moves, and I'm not seeing that yet. I like the name. I hope it works. I thought today when we got through the higher high, I thought we were going to have a net-like move. That did not happen. Instead, we rejected. So, you just have to be aware of that. So Here's cure, and let's throw in the indicators for this because they're actually going to add value. Yeah. So look at this volume that's coming in. This volume's insane. See that volume down here? And let's put a arrow on that so you can see what I'm talking about. So that volume's insane for the stock, and it's really starting to come in. This is exactly the kind of action you want to see. It's a little bit ahead of itself, so you're really going to be chasing it. And you can kind of see this, right? Maybe you can't. So we're just going to draw it in there. See that resistance? So you just got to watch that. You have to be really careful there. It's got to break through that, and then maybe it could flip and have a power move. But this is not something you buy until you get above this level. It's great looking. It's really very good looking stock. But you can see what happened. Like last time it hit this level, right? Look at that. I mean, last time it hit the level was here. Look where it went. Right here. So, I mean, you see where I'm going with this, right? Here. And then we came back down in. So you can see what it does. It rejects and respects this level. So it may do the same thing here. So why take the risk? You need to see it break. DPST. This is a 3X regional bank ETF I was asked to take a look at. So let's put this in here. This is kind of interesting. I'm not really sure why the regional banks are doing so well right now. I guess because of the increase in rates, but then they came back down. Wow, this really came in on the pandemic and never really made it back. That's very interesting because you would think that you would see some of that coming back. So drill down into this, right? And let's see what we see. We see it not being able to get above these averages for a long period of time, right? Look how we couldn't get above the 21. Now what's happening? They're all turning, crossing, and starting to point up. So there might be something to this. Now, and you are turning up. Now, you're in a huge gap too. Look at this. Let's close this down a little bit and really drill into this now. See where you're at right here? You're in the middle of this gap, all this stuff here. And let's get rid of these indicators now so that we can just look at price. So this can go. This could move. And, you know, really, this is your break. And if you look at a lot of the smaller cap stocks, they all went back up. This has not done that yet. So there might be something to this. Really, what I would be looking for is get me out of this base. So 255 is what I'd be looking for. Get me above 255 on a close. Get me out of this base, and then maybe we try to attack this 308 level again. But this should, if you're looking for something like this that to get involved in the banks, I like this. This is solid, and it's just been grinding up for over a year. So, and it should really fill the top of the gap. I mean, if you think about it, banks should be the least thing that have been hit by the pandemic. ELA, I was asked to take a look at. So let's take a look at it. Look, there's not a lot of love here for this name. Yeah, I mean, you're just riding the 5 and the 8 all the way down. If you're in this, you just simply have to use the low of the day. Right down here, 376 is a stop, and that's it. Call it a day. Call it a day, move on with your life, because this is just going to get worse and worse and worse. Once you broke the 200-day, there's really no reason to be in a stock. I'll say that again. Once you break the 200-day, there's no reason to be in a stock, period. If you're long, they can take forever to come back. You know, the magnitude of move that has to happen when you start breaking these, you can see it like on the 50 here. You never came back. Broke the 21 here, never came back. You know, you can make the 5 and the 8, but where are you going to run to? Up here? So this is not something that I would own, and I would use the low of the day. ENPH is in the newsletter, and you know, I like this name a lot, and I like this move a lot. And I thought with the current administration, we'd start seeing actual moves towards, you know, solar, you know, some type of credit, larger credits. I don't know. I don't trade on that kind of stuff, but I just thought that would happen, and we really haven't seen that, have we? So let's get rid of these indicators because they're irrelevant for the moment. See this wedge? Once we broke this wedge out the other day, I wanted to own it. Now we came in on that, but we didn't take out the low of the day, so I stayed in the trade. And now we opened and closed above this wedge, which is setting us up to move higher. And then you're just going to have resistance points the whole way. Okay, so here's going to be one resistance point right there. Hold on. There you go. So there's your first one. Here's your second one. So you're going to have some little resistance points here. But frankly, where you should get to, whenever you break a wedge, right, you go to where the wedge started. And that's usually a good sign that 186 should be your first target. Okay, that's, people ask how I get to targets. That's a really good way to look at them. So I would use that strategy. I think you'll be fine if you use that strategy. I like this name. I like it a lot. I think it has a lot of potential. Throw the bells and the whistles in. And the volume's increasing. The 200-day, we're above, we're above all the moving averages. Now we're above the 50. And I do think you have the opportunity to get to this 225 level. So I'd stay with the trade. FLGT. I mean, I just have nothing here that would remotely make me feel comfortable. Nothing. And let's get rid of all these indicators again. Like, I mean, we saw that they were all pointing down, right? But I'm just knocking on this door. And I've said this before and in the past, if you keep knocking on a door, what's going to happen? They're going to let you in. Eventually, this is going to break if it keeps doing this. So, and where this line is telling you where your next support line is. So I would not be in this. And frankly, if I was long this and I close below this 83, I would get out. I mean, I know it's a big name and people love it and huge earnings, but that stock move is telling you something. 4, I walked through the other day. Here's your channel, right? And we could throw these trends in for a moment. Well, let's not throw those in. That's going to confuse the hell out of everybody. So even me. So let's just click on these, get rid of these. And let's just get into this. So here's this convergence point, and we haven't gotten above it yet, but it looks like we might get above it. You get above this convergence point, this thing's going to take on another level. And then you're going to be looking at flipping this channel from here, and the channel line's going to flip to here. Right? You can see it right here, right? See this channel? So that's where you would flip to. And then you'd be looking at roughly 108 would be where the stock is that you'd be looking for, right? That 108 line. See how I got there from here on that break. So that's really what you want to see. That's what you're looking for, but we're just not there yet. We have to break through here. And right now you're looking at a number of 101 is really what you're looking for. But this has potential. This has massive potential. FSR, I mean, look, again, let's get rid of all the horizontal lines for a moment. Click on that. Come on. There you are. So let's just get rid of all these horizontal lines. And let's just look at price. I mean, where did it go? It ran right to the 200. Let me put this in here so people will know if they're flipping through this. You got right to the 200, right to the 21, and you rejected. I would not go near this. I wouldn't touch this. And it's getting tighter and tighter in here, which leads me to believe it's going to go one of two ways. And if I'm below these moving averages and I'm below the 200-day, it tells me which way that I'm going to roll. Look, I like this company. I think they're going to be around for a while. But when you have a move like this, it's very concerning. And some of these EV names are going to be around and some of them are not. And I really hope this company, it does exceptionally well. But until this thing gets its act together, you can just see what it's done. Look, there's one of those Morningstar patterns. Funny how that works, right? So let's just keep on rocking and rolling. GHVI. I like this little move the other day, and it's why I threw it out there. I like that you came down, you tested this resistance line. These indicators are completely irrelevant. So you tested this line and you held here, and then you flipped and you took out a new high. It's great action. For the SPAC market is just toast right now, and this is acting fairly well. So I think that's a really good sign. Your next key level is right here. Okay, 1451. Get about 1451, and then you can start thinking about this level. 1786. See how you broke the wedge and how the point of that wedge becomes your target? Just a very simple way to draw them. Gives you an understanding of where you could go to. So this one, as far as pot stocks go, this is the one that I personally really like. And I'm trying to get this in here and shrink this down because I just want to show something. Perfect. Okay. So I'm going to open this up in a minute, but I just want to point out this. You see how you're here, and it's getting smaller, right? I can actually do this through a, yeah, I got it. I know. So you hit here. See how it's getting smaller and smaller? Okay, I'm done. So you see how it's getting smaller each time? That's what you want to see. And that's really important because now we were in this range, right? Now we are in this range. So that's telling me that the next time that we get to this level, we might actually break out. Now, if we take this for a moment, we throw these in, you can see some of the problems. We have to get above the 21. We have to get above the 50. So until we get above the 21 or the 50, I'm not going to chase this, especially in this market. But this is getting tighter, and in a couple weeks, this could be something that we should be looking at. HIMX. Okay. Yeah. You know, you are above the 50. You are above the 21-day moving average. I mean, I just think you have so much overhead resistance that it's not something I want to look at. We were actually long this, and it's in the right space. The problem with it is the rejection here over and over again. And that usually scares me. So I'm not going to go near this until I get through $16. Once I get through that 16 level, and I think that line goes back to a weekly, and I'm going to take the time to make sure of this. It might actually go back to a monthly. So, because that level is important. Yeah. So, see what I'm talking about? The 16-19 level and how we hit that and rejected it here. So, I personally would not touch this until we get there. And I just want to point this out again. We talk about these wicks being price rejection. Look at all the price rejection. So, it's kind of found a home. I don't really think, and it's found a home right along this monthly thing, right here. That's kind of where it's found its home. You know, just by looking at this monthly chart. I just don't see the need to get into this until it gets above 16. I don't need to catch those extra 2 points. So let me just go back to the daily now. INSP. Okay. So you can kind of see what's going on here, right? And you're trading above that 50-day. And that 21 starting to curl up. So I like this. And you have a really simple pattern here. Let's blow this up a little bit. So really what you want to see on that swing is just get above this peak right here. So 225 is your level where you're really looking for. Get above 225 and then you can retest this 250 level. That's INSP. I like that trade. That's very interesting. You need more volume though. JMIA, look, this was one that I said when it broke, it's a short. It was a short. I actually did okay with it on the short side. But this is setting up, and it's setting up really nicely, and I'm going to walk through this. So I'm going to get rid of my 400 lines here, and we're going to start all over again on all the horizontal lines. And let's get rid of the rectangle. Okay, and I don't really need to get rid of that, but let's put this up here. Because this is this is very interesting to me. And let me just draw this out. Okay. Okay. So this line got you right to here, broke this, closed once below it, bounced off of this line. Let's blow this up a little bit so you can really see what I'm talking about here. Okay. See this line here? Boom. Right? Couldn't close below it. Look how we bounced over it and respected this. Look how it's respecting it here. Look how we hit here and then respected this. What do we need to do next? Right? And this one's really worth drilling into. Close above that 31.42. And you're going to see some buying coming into this because then you will have flipped a double bottom. You've tested this downward trend line and you've tested the 200-day. That's going to give institutions and people a warm, fuzzy feeling. That's what you want to see. So people need to be looking at this one. Okay. And 31.50 is where I'd be looking, but I would definitely have this one on your radar in 31.50. It may be something you see in the newsletter soon, depending upon the type of volume that comes in and the strength of the move. Nordstrom's, you know, we won't have to spend a lot of time on this one. I mean, you're just going sideways. I mean, there's not really much more to say here. Right? You're just going sideways. So you see how these lines are you're just in this trend. Every time you break out of it, it comes back. either side. There's really nothing to do here. You're back to pre-pandemic levels, and the spending's not back to pre-pandemic levels. The volume's fallen off a cliff. I would just avoid it. KLIC, this is one I threw out there today. Don't be surprised if you see this in the newsletter. I really like the action. This is in the right space. It's in semis. Semis are on fire. They've been on fire. They've been the strength. Once we broke this line, that was it for me. Once we got above that little wedge right here, that was it for me. Oops, let me turn that off. So what we're going to see here is, I think we're going to see continuation. And there's a little line right here. And that's really where you stop today, isn't it? Stopped right there. I'm just going to leave these arrows on for now. So you can see it, we stop right there. Now I'm hoping that we flip this and run, and that I can draw that better. There you go. So I'm hoping we flip this and run. If we don't and we reject, I'll get out of the trade. But this is one that you may see in the newsletter. It's acting exceptionally well, and I would tell you to put this on your radar. So here you are, KWEB. Crane Shares Trust, Chinese Trust. I'm not going to get into the whole China trade, but you see how you're getting above this 200-day and 21-day, and you're trying to get to this 50-day? That's what needs to happen. The best thing about this chart is this volume line increasing. And let me put the symbol in here for those that are interested in this one, KWEB. But what's really going to be our impetus? What's going to drive this higher? Right now, I just have a free fall. You need to get above this level. You should be able to see this level, but if you can't, you can't. So you need to get above this. And let's open this up, and let's drill this down. Perfect. Okay. So you need to get above this wick, $81. From 77 to 81, I wouldn't be interested until I got above that. It would clear this, and it would clear this huge red down bar. See this H? We can see which way the H, we can see how the H went on this. Until I get above the point of that H, I don't want to be near this. And this is KWEB. It is good that it is getting above the 21 and the 50, and that the 21 is actually starting to curl up. That is good stuff. LABU, boy, I got a lot of these on here. I keep waiting for this trade to work. I love this name, and it should work, but it's just not working. So again, today we ran right to this line, and let me just blow this up. Everyone knows this is LABU, and let's just blow up and look exactly what transpired today. Right? Price rejection, price rejection. Again, 77.20 is your line on this, and that's really what you have to focus on. You really want to focus on that 77.20 line. Until you get above that, shouldn't go near it. So, and that's what I'm looking for. But we're testing this line, right? And it's knocking on both, so it's going to go somewhere. I do like the fact that we are above the 21-day. That does give me some hope. But right now, I still have the 50 and the 200-day to contend with. So, Lulu. I like this move, and I thought this was a decent move today. I have the 21 and the 50 crossing, and they've become support. Blow this up a little bit, drill into it. And now they're breaking out and they're heading higher. This has a tremendous amount of room to run. And the fact that you're closing above the 200-day is a really good sign. Get above this 347. At this point, I don't think you chase it. Get above that 347 line, and you could be all over this. I like that one a lot. And that's why I was telling people today, there's a lot in here that looks really good. So some people tell me they take notes when they watch this or pause it and come back to it. Whatever works, works. MSOS, I knew this was going to be a long one. Look, advisor shares, trust. There's no reason to go near this thing. I mean, I'm in a downward trend, downward channel. Maybe it bounces back over the 21-day, but this is nothing that we have to look at. That's that exciting. MVIS, people were asking me, am I watching it? Am I watching it? Yeah, it had a great move. Look where it stopped, right? It had a great move today. Look where it rejected. Okay, these lines have been there. 19.25 rejected there. So from this move, when it broke here, there's no reason to be in this. Okay, so when it hit this line, this is where you should be out of it. This break on the way up, this break's beautiful. getting above this bar, getting above the 50-day, it's really solid and it looks great. But until you get above 19 and a quarter, which it has failed to do pretty much all year since it broke down, I have no interest in it. It's a solid move in 3 days. It's a great move in 3 days. Congratulations to the people that bought it on the, the bullish engulfing down here. It's solid. But that's why these patterns, I keep going over them because they're so important to understand those 5 candlestick patterns in that video, and I'll link it. But there's nothing you can do there now. You can't go near that now. NGA, there's nothing to do here. Get above the 21 day, get above the 50, and then you can kind of go from there. But there's not really much to do. You didn't even really take out the lower low, so you don't even really have a double bottom, technically. NIO finally broke out. I mean, look, the thing with NIO really, and I just didn't pull the trigger on it because of the market we were in, the time to buy NIO was here, right? When we touched the 200-day, didn't break, we were at the lower end of the wedge, and then we flipped back into this longer term channel, right? That's down here. You see this channel? And then when we flip back into that, that's really when I should have bought it, but I didn't. So the question is, what do you do now? I wasn't interested when it broke through the 21 day because to me, I'm like, okay, I'm going to make $1 or $2 versus the amount of risk getting through this 4180 line. And this 4180 is a bear. You're hitting here, you stopped here, it hit here again, here. I mean, over and over again, it's hit this line. 4180 is no joke on the stock. So when you break that 4180, I think it'll go through the 50-day fairly quickly. But at this point, once it broke, I'm going to wait for that level, that 4180 level, before I act on it. NNDM, there's not really much more to say. Get above the 21 day, get above $8. We looked at this yesterday. There's nothing to do here on this. You have to get above the $8 and you have to get above the 21 day, which will happen at the same time. NVCR, this is really interesting. So when you have a huge gap like this up, really what people are looking for is this. They want to see it break this level before they add to it. But the other way to trade it is to buy it and then use this low as your stop. Usually when you have a gap like this, you fill, and that's what it did, right? It opened here, maybe it ran up, then ran back down, shook everybody and hurt everybody that day, and then you gap down on the next day. Everybody wonders what they own, and then it goes higher. So, I mean, it's pretty typical to shake people out, and it's done an excellent job of that. But you're not out of the woods yet here. You need to get above this 218 and continue. So if you want to buy it from here, that's fine. Your goal is the 218. The minute that this upward trend, this rising wedge, takes out a lower low, you just get out of the trade. But I like that. So I was asked about this today, Playboy, what I saw when I said to look at buying it. And I just want to show you something. So you see this open? You see this close? As soon as we got above that, it triggered a buy, right? So that line, just so you can see it, and this is really important to understand this, you opened and closed at the same bar. It just also happened to be the high here. Funny how that works, right? So let's just go into a 5-minute, save a little bit of time. Let's get rid of these bells and whistles. And let's just drill into this, okay? There's the line that we just drew, okay? As soon as it got above it, what did it do? Right? As soon as it got above it, boom, that was it. It was gone. This one rejected, came back down, right? And then you went right here. Now, what's the difference between the two? Look at the volume here, okay? Look at the volume here. What's the difference? Okay, the difference is when this rejected and took out that low right there, that was your sign that you needed to get out of the trade. Then you base and you're knocking, and I'm just going to point this out again. You're knocking on the door over and over again here, right? And you really don't need the indicators, but we're going to leave it in for price. So then I get over it here. Then I retest it on the next bar and I can't break it. You know that you're solid then. Let me turn this off. So you know you're solid there then. And that's exactly what transpired. So that's what you're looking for. You're looking for price rejection, either to the upside or the low side. And then it just took off. I think it's up after hours, another $1. And there was really nothing to do with this trade once you entered it. Now I'm going to be knocking on these, but right now the next one gets me to $51. So I'm fine with that. And this is one of those high beta names. It could just gap that. Planet 13 Holdings. These wicks, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. When you have wicks like this, you need to be really careful. It just shows constant price rejection. And you're in a downtrend here. So let me just go through this for the gentleman that asked about it. And frankly, let me do this too. PLNHF. Okay. So what do you do here? And I'm not going to go over the indexes today. I'll go over them tomorrow when on the live call. But we need to go over them because they were pretty powerful moves today. And we need to, I'm going to address that. And I want to address the socks tomorrow too. So look, you see this move? You have to get over that. And you're flatlining on these. You're flatlining on these. The 21 and the 50-day. Flatlining, dead money. Just remember it that way. Planter, I said it's broken here 6 times. Every time it breaks here, what do? This is where you buy it. This is where you should have bought it when it flipped yesterday. We talked about this. Now you're above the 21 day. It's early, but if you get to this 26 line, right? And I don't think that 50 days is even going to be an issue for it, frankly, but you're going to get to the 26 line and then you have to break it. So at this point, you need to watch it. And now it's got to break 26 before you enter. If you take out this low, that's where you're going to get out of it. Very simple trade. Pub M, great earnings. Finally getting above that 50 and 21 day. Talk to me when it's above 60, right? Couldn't do it here. Bonk, bonk, right? I'm not chasing this for this amount of money. So it could easily push on a day trade here, especially with see how this bar closed? And we know what this pattern is, right? We went through that in the candlestick, but higher high could be an easy trade on like a 15-minute setup, but longer term, I'm not interested yet. So QRVO, Corvo. Put this on the newsletter today, 193.5. Very simple trade. The 191.82 broke. It's in the right space at the right time. And I got above this line. So if you're not in this yet and you don't get the newsletter, there's a link in the description. The newsletter's free. You need to look at this. It's in the right space at the right time. And you're coming off of a bounce over the 21 day through here. The volume was huge today. And I just want to point this out. This is where your channel is. Okay. I'm not looking for this. This is why I'm in this move. Okay. And we did this with the other one too. This is why I'm in the move. Okay. Because this is really what I'm looking for. It's up here. Okay. That's where my target is. We did the same exact thing with NVIDIA and we made 100 points. This is setting up. This has a huge opportunity and you need to put this one on your radar. Riley was one that we looked at. And I counted it out on where I think it's going. I think it's going to 86. And look how it's respecting the line. We break below it, doesn't really stay there. And look, I mean, this is why it's so important to understand how to draw these lines properly before you get into your clouds, your stochastics, and your RSIs. I'm not saying there's not value, and I do use those, but you need, as a beginner, you need to understand this stuff. This is really important. And look how it's respecting that line. That line's everything. And you need to get that. This looks great. I mean, where's your stop? A couple closes below this would concern me. And then you would even use this, really, if you want like a really lower stop. And actually probably what I would use now. I'd probably use this. 66 3/4 for my stop on this. And I think this goes in the 80s. I think this has tons of potential. And it's going to grind itself to get there. But it's going to get there. Run. I've been looking at this and waiting for these to start to rally and bounce. I understand why people like this. It did bounce here. People were asking me about this one the other day. I said, I would wait. For the people that bought it, congratulations. You've done exceptionally well. It's not my kind of trade. I just didn't have any kind of conviction here whatsoever. The encapsulation of this bar was really, and you can get into this, and this is worth the time to understand this statement. The encapsulation of this other bar was really a sign that we were going higher. And that's exactly what it did, right? So that was your trigger and you could have used that. Now I have the 50 and the 200 up here. And this is why it's important to understand this. Okay. Do I really want to risk buying this to see how I do with these two lines? 200 days are no joke. Neither are the 50s, especially if I'm not even through a support level. So you just have to watch that. I like the space. Frankly, it's why I got into ENPH. Okay. because I do. I like the space, and I think that you should be in the space. I think the space works. So SE, we've been talking about this. We've been talking about this kill box, right? This little wedge. Which way are we going to go? Guess which way it's going. It's breaking out. This is set to run. I had a lot going on today, so I didn't enter this trade. I was very active today, but this is set, man. This is beautiful. Like, it doesn't get, like, when I explain those candlestick bars, like, it doesn't get any better than this, than opening at the low and closing at the high. Like, that's like the best bar. Like, that's the bar that you like dream about as a trader, right? It's going to open. It's not even going to give me any ag whatsoever. And it's just going to keep going up. And that's what it did. And that's exactly what you want to see. So I think that this is set to run. I really do. And your first level is going to be back to here, 287. And I saw this move today and I didn't add it. But I would not be surprised to see this in the newsletter at all. I like this trade. SI, look, with what's going on with Bitcoin and the uncertainty of this tax liability, you need to be really careful. I'm surprised they're not down more today, frankly. I'm surprised they're not down more. I thought they would have gotten hit a little harder, but they didn't. So that's a good thing. There are so many other great opportunities out there that I would not play with this. Right now, if we get rid of all these indicators, you don't really have an H. You just have a straight down and unable to get above any of these resistances. And you see how these lines, you start fanning your lines? That's no good. You don't want to do that. It shows that the trajectory of the move is changing and becoming less aggressive. And of course, you can just see this huge support and resistance line that you're in from 114 to 176 now, right? So avoid. So skills, you know, it's interesting. We've been in this since 14 3/4. I have a gentleman today ask me why I put a secondary position on and then I got stopped out flat on the secondary position. And, you know, I trade certain names a little more aggressively than others, especially the second tier names right now. I did not sell the initial position. I'm staying in the initial position, but the secondary name I got out so that I could re-enter. And I'm just going to explain this to you so that you can kind of understand this, because I think this is important. So here you are on the day, okay? This is where you closed, okay? And I want you to understand this move because the skills it's very important that you get this concept, okay? That's where you closed, okay? You buy it, it's not working, it tries to rally, okay? So I bought it right around here. Tries to rally, doesn't work, comes right back to my stop. There is no reason, whether you're in this for 100 shares, 1,000 shares, 10,000 shares, if you're trying to own it for a year, I don't understand the concept. And maybe it's because I've been doing this so long, I've seen what happens. I don't understand the concept of I'm just going to hold it even though I'm down in it. Once I'm up, I'm up. Once I'm down, right? I mean, like, it's that simple. You can always buy it back. You can't always get the same price to sell, right? So keep that in mind. Focus on what you can control. I can control my profit and loss. His response was, which was interesting, oh, you have to give it more time. Well, how much time? And the reason I brought the question to the gentleman was, think about it. What are you telling me? I have to wait a half hour? What happens if it drops 20%? I can't sell it because I have to wait the half hour. So you have to trade the way that you want to trade and what your process is. My process on this is I have a very large position in this in the 14s. I wanted to add to it here on, about 10% of what the whole position is. As soon as it went up, it rejected. I didn't want to be in it. Now I'm going to explain why. And I was very active today. Today was a great day trading and people should have done well. And if you didn't do well today, you need to reevaluate how you're trading and how you're investing, because today you should have absolutely crushed it. There were tons of signs and tons of indicators that were going off and tons of triggers that were going off. So this is where we closed, okay? Look where it bounced, okay? Look at the bar on this 5-minute, how I encapsulated this other bar. So there's my bullish engulfing right at a full gap fill on the day, okay? On the low of this trend line, okay? This is a perfect place to re-enter. Now, if I was still in it here, I wouldn't be able to re-enter it down here if I wanted to only add to one position. Adding back to this trade, and now I'm in it, right? And now I'm starting to get above these other levels. Now let's start drilling back into this trade. And I know I took a while with that, but I think that that's an important concept. And I'm trying to figure out the way to get these concepts across. But It's literally hundreds of hours of stuff to teach and to like educate. I'm trying. So why is that level important? Look where it took me. And someone asked me, and I'm going to get into this more tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Someone asked me why sometimes do I use the lows and sometimes I use the highs of these peaks. It's very simple. You just look at where the bars are actually landing on the candlesticks. Okay, and I use candlesticks more than bars, and that's a conversation for another time. As soon as we flipped this, that was it. You knew it. You knew you were golden. Stay in the trade. Now I have a full position on here. I have the stock that we bought at 14, right? And I have my position back and I'm in it and I didn't have to worry about it. And unless you're trading 1 million shares or whatever your book is that you're trading, I don't want to get into the size of my trades because it's really nobody's business, but you can do this with 50, 75, even 100,000 shares on some of these names. You don't have to worry about moving them. Now, this one, you might have to worry about it if you start getting into that size, but this one I had enough liquidity that I can play around with it. So why wouldn't I do that? Start thinking about what you can control versus what you can't control. That said, that's just one rant. Let me just put this up here for a minute. I just wanted to point out we were up 40%, and I did tell people to trim when they were up there. Of course I trimmed when I was up there. Okay, when I'm up 14 to 20 and I'm not breaking this line, I'm trimming. Now I just have a perfect trade that looks like it's setting up for higher, and I think this goes much higher. I think this breaks through the 20.5 shortly and gets to the 24. Our stop now, however, will be moved to the 14 3/4 so that we don't lose money. It's that simple. It's not more complicated than that. SNAP was a trade I did at the end of the day, and I threw it on Twitter so people could follow along. Let's just go through it. Last night I didn't want to be a party to it, but let me just show you this trade because it's really very important. Okay, same concept, and I actually could have done a lot better with this trade, but I was just too active that I missed it early on and I had to wait for another setup. So here you are, you open and close above the 50, but you open and you come all the way down. Well, let's look at that all the way down move. So I'm trying to hammer this 1 point home to you so you can understand it. So this is the day. This is when everyone gets all excited. It's really going to go. This is the day it's finally going to run. Okay. All right. I'm not trying to. We're going to get into the volume in a minute. Okay. This was the close yesterday. Where'd we go to? You had a full gap fill, probably almost to the penny, and then you turned and ran. Now, I was busy. I missed that. So I had to wait for the next trigger. And it didn't get me to where I wanted to be, right? Frankly, it just didn't get me to where I wanted to be with it. But I felt that we were overgapped, and we did overgap. And so we came here. So it didn't get me the pricing that I wanted. But see this pattern? Once we got above this pattern, I'm not the only one watching it. See all that volume coming in? So my trade's simple. You're buying it here. Okay, now you're in it. Now, I don't care if you're trying to buy this for a day or a year. I want to get the best price. That's the best price. You could legitimately use, after this bar is in place, this for your stop, whether you're trying to stay in it for a year or two. I've been in stocks for years that I bought off of 5-minute bars. Okay, and that's what you're trying to do, get the best price. What is this setting up for? You cannot buy it now, right? Why? Because I have to get above 64.5 now. Throw in the bells and whistles, get above the 50, which you are, get above the 21. Let's drill down into this. Let's look at the 5 and the 8 since it's here. We're above everything, right? On a great earnings report. Get me above the 64.5, and I think that we could start going again here. I think this has huge potential and can start getting back into this channel. If I was to draw the channel, you could see that you are on this side of it, flip back into it, and this thing can go a lot higher than this old rectangle right there. SOXL, we're in from the newsletter at 38.5 again. I'm going to get rid of all these indicators, and we're just going to look at price. Here's your wedge that you're trying to flip back into. See how it rejected here? This is that day 2 weeks ago where I said this is where you're going to want to sell. I think this ran up a little too high. We actually trimmed and got out. I told people not to chase the semis. It just worked out well. And then we had this little part come into it. Then we started bouncing here, and that's where I threw out, hey, 38.25 is working. And let's buy it there and see if it undercuts. Because the semis are crushing. They're great earnings. And I know this one's going long, but there's a lot of important stuff here. So Um, let's see it flip and go higher here. Okay, I like this. I like this trade. This is going to go through. I think it's going to go through this time, frankly. But I always think that. But I do. I think this time it's really going to go. So space was one that, like, we tried back here at $60. And when people ask me, sometimes I leave this stuff in. We bought it. 4 points from entry was our stop, and that was it. We got out. 4 points. The people that don't have a stop and they want to stay in forever, okay, they're at $22 today. Okay, so you have to understand these things can always go lower than you think. What do you do with this now? Well, I have a beautiful double bottom possibly, right? See this mark right here? $24. Get above that and you have a nice double bottom. Let's look at our indicators. I have no love on these indicators whatsoever, and I'm still below the 200-day. The very first thing you need to do before you consider buying this is get above $24. Until then, don't even look at it. So Tigers, today's the day that it's actually going to work because I threw in the tell on it, and I finally figured out the system on how it just breaks this line and never closes below it. So what's it going to do today? It's going to break the line and close above it. This was a really solid close on Tiger, and you really have to pay attention to that. I'll tell you exactly what I'm looking for on this, and I don't know that we're going to put it in the newsletter or not. I think there's much better stocks to put into the newsletter. Get above that 2140, 2135, and you need to be all over this. You get above that wick now, and that's confirmation that getting above that wick where we have had, quote, price rejection. Remember, wicks are price rejection. Be all over this. Okay, it's going to go if that happens. And there's a trend right here that's already broken. Okay, this was a solid mover today. Congratulations to the people that were in it. Just not my kind of trade. It's my kind of trade here and at the 18. And I walked through, where I'd be a buyer of this with what was going on. I have no position in it right now. So, but 21 and 2140, you're golden here, right? Now you throw these indicators in, and let's drill into this so you can really see, because the full volume hasn't even caught up on the day. And you have your spikes right here that are above average. A lot of selling at the end of the day. I'm not surprised by that. People want to ring the register on this name. They've got burnt so many times on it. TKAT. So again, I'm going to explain this. And I did that video on these NFT stocks. And I would watch that video again. I might link this and just go through it and learn those names. NFT stocks, they are not done moving. They are just beginning to have moves. That space is not going away. It's going to be around a long time. Now, it doesn't mean that it doesn't go through cycles, but gentleman was trading this today. I was looking at it as well, and I needed to get above this level before I entered. And why? Because I hit here, okay? It hit here, couldn't get above it. Hit here, couldn't get above it. So it tells me that is price rejection. These wicks are telling me something. They're telling me a story, right? Price rejection, okay? When I got above that, we're just going to look at that line because I want to point this out because I think this is very important to understand. Okay. When I got above this level, I'm not the only one watching these, and this is why they work. One of the reasons why they work. When we finally got rid of this seller that's been up here, okay? See how it rejected all day today? Bonk, 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 right? Couldn't get above it. Day before, couldn't get above it. Okay, tried again. Then what happened? Got above it. As soon as it got above it, what happened? That was it. That was the big move. The majority of this move in this stock today happened. The real big move happened from here to here. And when that happened, it happened off the open here. I get it. But this was 15, 20 minutes. Okay, and you're in your $6 move. Okay, and that's why you have to understand where these levels are and why it's so important. That's what I wanted to see on it. I don't want to try and catch this and see maybe it'll break this time. I want to see proof. So that's that trade. Now you have to kind of watch it and play it out, make sure that it has continuation. But I'd look at that NFT video. TNA is one that we were talking about buying. We've done exceptionally well with it before. Look where I'm at this level. You're right here. You got to get above that 98. And the 100 level scares me too. You're just knocking on the door. Eventually, if you knock long enough, you'll get in there. And you're holding this trend line. And right here, you have a nice bullish engulfing. But I'd watch that. I don't know that we're there yet. I said in the newsletter that there's a trade there, and there might be. I do like that name, And that trade might be setting up. It just hasn't triggered for me yet. What is this one? This is TWOU. And what we see going on here is a solid move of just a base. And there's really nothing to do here. I wouldn't touch this. There's not really much I would do here. Yeah, I mean, you hit the 50 and you rejected. Just avoid this. And how these are all flatlining. It's dead money. UPST, we had a decent move today, and we have all these lines. And what we're going to do is get rid of them all. And we're going to get rid of this. And we've been riding this wedge down the whole way. We flipped here. We had the bullish engulfing, which called the bottom, right? When I was saying that if we keep going, we're going to 83. It said no, reversed. We had a beautiful day on that. Gave you a morning star or a possible evening star pattern reversal. Clearly, that's been rejected, and you broke out today. Now, let's just drill into this, and I don't need any of these moving averages right now. This is all you need to know about this for where to add to it. Look at where you closed today, okay? That's all you need to focus on right now if you want to be long this stock. You don't need a widget, anything. Watch that point. Why? Because that's what's going on. It's going to either reject it or not. Get above 111.28, and then you can take a look at this name. And it looks like there is VAQ, Vector Acquisitions. Looks like we looked at this before. Look, you broke this line. You've gap filled now, right? We just went through all these gap fills and explaining that process to you. We've gap filled, and look how tight it's getting. So I have no interest in this name personally, just because how thin it is. I can tell just by looking at it in the wicks. I don't really need to drill into anything more. If I wanted to own this, you could buy it here, right here, and then use these lows as your stop, 1027. Finally, VIPS. This is breaking out. This is very solid. And, for those that stayed to the end, you take a look at this. Like, this is really something that you should be paying attention to. This move through support today, a 5-8 moving average crossover, the 21 starting to curl. I have no resistance until I get to the 50-day. There's no resistance here. So I have an easy 4-point trade. And if I close below this 30.92, I know to get out of the trade. I have like $1 worth of risk for $5. So this is something that you should be looking at and watching on Monday. I like this action. And once you start getting into this, and if you can get above these levels, you can start getting into this red bar. There's no resistance here. So that's one to definitely watch. So that's it in a nutshell. I look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow at 1 o'clock if you can make it. And it should be fun. That's it. Have a great evening. Hope this was helpful.